Yeah! Friday nights! WNRI! Winding down slow, radio on, like he's riding shotgun all night long. Me and Nathan, that same old voice, stories rolling, easy choice. I'm staying in for the Nathan Markley show every Friday night on my radio. From WNRI, yeah, the signal rolls through the walls down to my soul. I'm staying in for the Nathan Markley show. Let the whole town drive, I'll let them go. I'll be right here where the stories flow. Tuned in time to the Nathan Markley show.
Good evening, Rhode Island, and everyone tuning in online. I'm Nathan Markley, and you're listening to the Nathan Markley Show on WNRI, 1380 AM and 99.9 FM in Woonsocket, Rhode Island. You can also listen to online on WNRI.com or TuneIn Radio, I believe. And thanks for being here tonight. So coming up a little later on the show, we're going to revisit from last week's show where my dad talked about ASE certifications. I have a question for him that I didn't get the chance to ask. And then we're going to talk about an automobile that I've been looking at because coming up and later this year that I'm going to be looking for a new car. And we'll get into that all later on. We are going to be opening up the phone lines tonight, and if you want to call in, you can give us a call at 766-1380, 766-1380, or 769-0600, 769-0600. And if you're out of the state, you can call us toll-free at 1-800-949-WNRI. That's 1-800-949-9674. So let's first do little introductions. If you're new here listening tonight, well, welcome. As I mentioned, my name is Nathan Markley, and I'm the host of the Nathan Markley Show, and I've been podcasting for over 10 years, and it's really great to be on the radio now. What makes it different this time around is that I have a co-host, which is my dad, and I'm going to have him introduce himself. So, hello, Dad.
Hello. Good evening, everybody. Glad to be back again on this. This is our fourth or fifth show. Fourth.
Yeah, fourth.
Right?
Yeah, four.
Yeah, and hope to hear from some listeners. Hoping they call in.
Yes. And I was thinking about this the other day, Dad, about a radio show, and how it's put in how I can use my podcast to grow and get an audience. And I was talking to someone yesterday. The nonprofit organization I work with had a reunion event, and now Against the Brewery, they're celebrating their 35th year. And so we had a great night. We had previous common staff and previous staff that used to be there all came, and board members all came and hung out and got to catch up. Really great. But one of the people I was talking with last night about the radio show, they mentioned that even though we're a local station and we broadcast throughout Rhode Island, but really like this part of Rhode Island, Woonsocket, Lincoln, Smithfield, North Smithfield, you can really hear us. And because those residents, those people around here can really, they listen to the station, and we're getting exposure from, I'm getting exposure for the podcast from this. We're growing my listeners, my audience from this side.
Yeah, that's great.
Yeah, and
not only locally, on the radio frequency waves, but online, right?
Yeah, online,
on FM, and
some
of those apps that you can look up radio stations on. But WNRI.com is where you can listen live also.
Yes. Yeah, and also it got me thinking last night and a little bit this morning about that is I've always focused on growing my reach globally through social media and YouTube, and really where you want to grow is start local and get a local audience, because then eventually that's where you can make it big. And so I'm excited to be back on the radio and be doing this, and hopefully it takes off and something good come out of it too.
I have high hopes, and I'm sure it will.
Yeah, and
I mean, radio is radio, so it always started with radio.
yes,
Back in the early 1900s. So
yeah,
and that's the format I love. I love medium wave AM broadcasting, frequency modulated broadcasting.
yeah. When I think about how radio got started, and how families used to have a big radio in the living room. This is before televisions, and that was the source of entertainment. And they used to come around the radio and listen to someone tell a story. And
they would tell stories. They would play certain music. They would have, like I'd call them comedy or variety shows, where, of course, you're only hearing it and not seeing it, because this is before television was, a common entertainment mode in everyone's household.
Yeah.
And that, again, it's still the same way. But, I enjoy listening on the radio all the time, whether I'm in my vehicle or at home. I listen to a little portable radio.
Yeah.
And try and tune in weak stations or distant stations, and I find new stations. Yeah. As a matter of fact, I was traveling for work in Dallas this week. I brought my little radio with me, and I found several stations. One was in Louisiana that I was picking up.
Oh, wow.
It's 400 miles away with just an AM radio, and other stations that had, a lot more wattage. They were Class A stations. Mm-hmm. And I'm learning more and more stations around the country that have great content, and I enjoy. That's part of the fun of listening to AM radio, is when you travel, bring a radio with you, like I do, and find new stations, listen to new content.
Yeah, and one of the things, even with today's digital age, the 21st century, with technology and streaming, with podcasts, YouTube, that's all fun. But, we rely on what I want to say, power, but the servers and the companies that make those products come together. And but with radio is you need a lot of times, you don't need so much power. You need very little power to get out there, and there's frequencies in the air. That's how you connect and you can broadcast. And I know we're amateur radio operators too, licensed, and we both have technicians. And that's what really grew me into the radio space, is that I can string up a piece of wire connected to my radio and talk to people across the country, across the world even, with very little power. I don't need an internet connection. And I really like that radio is still here, and I think the radio is going to be here for long term, even though we have TV, you can connect with people through the internet. It's a great mode for communication to get the word out.
Yes, it does. And we can continue with that, but let's save that for another show, because I have a lot to talk about on as far as
we can
not needing an infrastructure for radio, for AM or FM.
And even in amateur radio too. We can do like a multi-stay segment on that, and I have people I can call in to talk about that.
Yes.
But a question I had for you. Is from last week, and last week you were talking about, towards the end of the show, about ASE certifications and how they're useful for mechanics. You mentioned, you gave an example of a question that may look at a test, and I believe it was something to do with tightening wheels on a car when
the wheel bearings.
The wheel bearings and the lug nuts, I believe, too.
Yes.
But you mentioned a word called foot-pound. And what is a foot-pound, and how do you measure that?
Okay, great question. A foot-pound is a measurement of twisting force.
Okay.
Another term for twisting force is torque, T-O-R-Q-U-E. Okay. It's the same torque you may have heard of as a measurement of engine power. But when you're tightening a nut or a bolt, and you want to keep components clamped together so they stay together and don't fall off the vehicle, like a wheel off of a hub, or a wheel bearing loosen up and cause damage, you have to tighten that nut or bolt, whatever type of fastener it is, to a certain foot-pound. Now, there's the metric equivalent of that is Newton meters, just as an FYI. It's like centigrade and Fahrenheit. Mm-hmm. But a foot-pound means that from the center of what you're turning, the head of a bolt or the nut itself with a socket or wrench, a weight is added 1 foot from the center, 90 degrees from that point. So think of a 1 foot bar or 12-inch long bar or wrench or ratchet, and the socket that's attached is over the head of the nut or the bolt.
Yep.
12 inches from that center line, if you apply a force of 12 pounds,
Okay.
right, and let that force just exert force on that ratchet or the wrench, that's 1 foot-pound. If you put 30 pounds on the end of that 12-inch wrench, you would be adding 30 foot-pounds.
Okay.
Okay, if you had a 2-foot-long wrench that extended from the center line and put 30 pounds,
Yep.
because it's 2 feet in length, you would have 60 foot-pounds. Because
So
you're doubling the
doubling
length from the center. So that's why you think of a truck lug nut. They need heavy-duty wrenches because it's going to need more torque, and it has to be more robust and not crack the socket or bend the wrench. But you need that extra leverage or length of the tool. Again, ratchet or breaker bar. And that will give you more torque or twisting force based on how much you can apply. So if as a human being that's in average strength or average fitness, they can exert a certain amount of force with their muscles and the proper body positioning and ergonomics. Someone who's been doing it for a long time and has more power in their muscles, larger muscles,
Right.
they can exert more force. So to make up for that, they've come up with air tools and electric impact tools.
Yep.
But getting back to what torque means, torque is twisting force. But that's just the measurement. You need a value to create the clamping force to hold those pieces together. So when a lug nut or 5 lug nuts or 6 lug nuts are keeping a wheel on a hub, it's based on the diameter of the stud and the number of threads, they need to be appropriately sized and have enough of them to apply enough clamping force. Because what keeps components together is a clamping force. The clamping force comes from when you tighten a nut or a bolt, you're stretching that threaded part of the the stud or the bolt. And when you stretch it, you're creating pressure, and that's called clamping force. So when a manufacturer says the lug nut torque to keep that wheel on the hub of that vehicle, let's say it's an average size 4-door sedan, it needs to be 88 foot-pounds or 90 foot-pounds. On a truck, a half-ton truck, right, like a F-150, a Silverado, it may need to be 115 foot-pounds. But a larger assembly, like on a 3/4-ton truck or a 1-ton truck, may require 160 foot-pounds. So that's just the value of torque, which will equal the clamping force required. Now, to measure clamping force, the tools out in the field of everyday mechanics it's not easy to have because you have to have a strain gauge that measures the stretch of the bolt. Now, in a lab, or when the engineers determine how much torque do we need to reach 100 pounds of clamping force, that should suffice to keep this wheel on the hub assembly and on the vehicle, it's going to require 122 foot-pounds of torque. That will give us the clamping force required. So the clamping force is determined first by the engineers, what's required to keep pieces held together or tightened up against each other. Okay? They have to determine how much torque is required, and the torque is a value that they extrapolate from what it would take as a value of torque in foot-pounds to equal the clamping force. See how it's like a result of what they need? They need clamping force, but they have to learn the value of torque that would be required.
Yeah. So, okay. So let's break that down a little bit. So a foot-pound is a unit of measurement for torque and how much torque you
Exactly
need to
right. Twisting force.
Twisting force to how much you need to tighten the lug nuts on your wheels.
Well, when you're tightening it, you're creating the clamping force because you can't squish the metal pieces. They don't squish
Right.
like, like soft plastic wood. They're steel. They're a strong metal, right? An alloy or different types of metals. So you need clamping force. And when you tighten it and they stop moving because you can't squish them anymore, like they touched up against each other and you can't squish them, now you start stretching the bolt or the stud that's holding them together by turning the nut or the bolt head. And that starts to create pressure and force, keep it together.
Keep it together. And you use that by using different size ratchets or like electric gun or something?
Well, let me explain it another way to help everyone understand. The measurement is in foot-pounds.
Yeah.
A foot-pound means you have a 1 foot or 12-inch lever from the center of the stud of the bolt, at a right angle or 90 degrees, out a certain amount. It's like extending a tape measure to read 12 inches, and you put the beginning of the tape measure on the center of the bolt. Yeah. So you have a tool that's that long. Yeah. And you put 1 foot-pound of force or weight on it, or pressure, on 12 inches, you end up with 1 foot-pound.
1 foot-pound.
So
when we do our brakes and we'll change the tires at home in the driveway, you always bring out a long
breaker bar. I'm
breaker
using
bar.
a breaker bar. Yes.
How that's 1 foot?
No. Breaker bars are bars that give you extra lever. Think of trying to move a rock or a log, and you get a long piece of wood or a long steel bar, and you place it at the bottom of the object you want to move. You put a fulcrum or something to rest against, and so as you pull the bar down, it reacts on the other end. Yep. That's just giving me leverage. To measure how much torque is applied, there's a torque wrench.
Torque wrench.
That's a calibrated wrench. There's a beam type, a spring type.
How long is that?
Typically, they're 18 to 22 inches, but they're calibrated. So when you set that torque wrench,
so less than 2 feet.
Yeah, 2 feet would be 24 inches. So it's close to 2 feet.
1.5 along there.
1 3/4, 1.5. Yeah.
Okay.
So depending on the size, like there's a 1/4-inch drive. For different size sockets, or up to, let's say, 9/16 of an inch of a nut head. Yeah. You want to go to 1 1/4 inch, 1.5. You probably use a 1/2-inch drive.
So we have 1.5 inch foot. Then you have the breaker bar. No.
Well, the breaker bar is
but that also adds extension to it too.
It gives me extra leverage because it's longer. Yeah. But it's not calibrated, and it doesn't display how much force I'm exerting on the end of the bar.
The torque wrench is calibrated.
Exactly right. The torque wrench is calibrated, and you adjust it to what you want it to apply. Okay. And usually when you either read a scale that's on the wrench, and on top of the head that you're pushing against, on top of that head at the center of the bolt, there's one stationary pointer. Right. And you're moving the lever that has the scale on it. Yeah. And you reference the needle stays still, but the scale's moving. And when you say, well, I want to put 100 foot-pounds because that's the specification, when you see the gauge line up with the needle and the 100 number, foot-pounds indication is lined up with the needle, you know you've applied 100 foot-pounds.
And that's usually
one
digital or analog?
Well, exactly. Great observation. That's what I'm trying to say. There's different types. You have a beam type, which is a stationary pointer, and a movable scale.
And then you can adjust it.
You don't adjust it. You have a scale that's calibrated, and it has the numbers in it.
Oh, okay.
There's a needle that's staying still, and when you push down on the handle to apply the force and tighten that nut, attach that bar that you're moving, it actually bends a little bit, but the scale is attaches to it. So you move that until the scale lines up with the number on the scale lines up with the pointer. Then there's some that are adjustable or click type, and you screw the handle in after unlocking it, and as you turn it on the handle and the tool itself, there's calibrations. You stop at 100, lock the tool right there so the handle doesn't rotate while you're pushing down, and the ratchet head will click. Because it's attached by a spring to the head. And when you reach that pressure of 100 foot-pounds, you'll hear a click, click. You'll hear it once. And if you keep clicking and releasing, it'll click again. But that's how you know you've reached 100 foot-pounds. Okay. So you adjust it to say, I want it to click at 100 foot-pounds, and it will. Slow, gradual pressure in the typically clockwise to tighten. And then you mentioned digital. That's the more common one now. Yeah. you have a digital display on the wrench. You turn the adjustment or press a button, and the battery operated for the display. You say set this at 100 foot-pounds, and then it'll give an indication, typically audible, like a beep, when it reaches that set point that you set. 100 foot-pounds will say, and at the same time, there'll be LED lights. Some have LED lights. The more money you spend on these wrenches, the more features you get, and you'll see the red when you're under or over the number you calibrated or you adjusted it for. The red will be illuminated LEDs, and then as you get closer to the value you want it to stop at, less red LEDs will show up, and then you'll see the green one light up when you hit it. That's the most popular one. It's a little more easier. It's faster to dial in what you want, so to speak, or select the specification you want it to stop at.
Which one you found? Because you probably use both.
I've used all types.
Which one do you find is more accurate, analog or digital?
The beam type. Because the old-fashioned original one, which is still in use today, because you're bending the bar, the needle's staying stationary, and it doesn't come out of calibration.
Yeah, and then I'm guessing the digital one, you have to use batteries, and the batteries go dead, and not getting a good read in.
Correct.
Yeah. I think you mentioned this earlier, but for an average vehicle on the road, like my Subaru Impreza, what is the average? How much pressure do we have to put on the wheels?
So,
the torque.
A typical vehicle, and of course, there's 3, 4, 5 different types of vehicles. An average size, mid-size sedan, 4-door, 2-door vehicle, 88 to 100 foot-pounds.
Okay.
The average is around 90 foot-pounds.
90 foot-pounds.
Every manufacturer is different. The wheel size, the wheel diameter. You may have a vehicle that can come with 14 wheels, 14-inch, 17, 19. Right? Larger SUVs, 110, 120. Trucks, half ton. Well, usually 3/4 ton or higher, 140 foot-pounds. Because that wheel and tire is so heavy, just by its size and construction.
So for my Subaru Impreza, we're looking at like 90 foot-pounds.
At the most, I would say it's in the 80s.
Interesting. This has been interesting. Very good information. Something question I had last week. I've been thinking about. So if you have a question for us or like to chime in or comment, you can call us in on the show. And that number is 401-766-1380, 766-1380. And also we have 401-769-0600, 769-0600. And if you're out of state, you'd like to call in, the toll-free is 1-800-949-WNRI, 1-800-949-9674. Also, if you just tuning in now and want to hear what we talked about at the beginning of the show, you can do that. Thanks to my podcast host and Libsyn. I should also mention you are listening to the Nathan Markley Show on WNRI 1380 AM and 99.9 FM, Woonsocket, Rhode Island. And thanks to Libsyn for hosting this show, you can listen to the replay from this week, the previous week about ASC certifications, and Apple too last week, and even the future shows on Apple Podcasts, Spotify, YouTube, or anywhere else you can listen to a podcast. And if you're thinking about getting into podcasts, use my unique promo code Nathan to get a free month of podcast hosting from Libsyn. And just like my show, Libsyn can help you get on the show on Apple Podcasts and Spotify, anywhere you want. Get crucial stats to help you grow. Find all the tools and support you need to sound your very best. You can even do video. Really bring your podcast to life with Libsyn. See show notes for my unique Libsyn promo code and get podcasting today. And we thank Libsyn for hosting the Nathan Markley Show. Again, you can watch or listen to the show after the fact, usually by Sunday afternoon, the replay on Apple Podcasts, Spotify, and YouTube. And all you have to do is go into those platforms and search The Nathan Markley Show. That's NATHANMARKLEYSHOW. And if you want to get started in podcasting, check out Libsyn, and that promo code is Nathan. Or if you go on my website, there's a link right there, and every episode I record, I put that link and promo code in the show notes.
How do you spell that? Libsyn?
Libsyn, yeah, it's Libsyn.
Libsyn?
Yeah,
Libsyn?
yep.
Thank
And yeah, Libsyn's a great podcast service. They've been around. They're one of the first hosting companies for podcasts. They've been around since 2004. It's really great. I've been using them for a while.
Pretty good.
Yeah. So let's see. We have no calls, but I as you know, I been need to look for a new car coming up. My lease is ending and very soon, I guess less than a month, I believe. Almost a month, so about a full month. And so I've been looking online for different cars and what I want and trucks and all that. And I found one truck that it's interesting to me. And I was wanting to know if you know about it. And I think we talked a little bit too, but
Yeah,
talk
I'm
more
interested
about
in it
it.
also.
And that truck is called the Slate. What do you think about the Slate truck?
Well, I'm glad you asked because I'm interested in it for a couple of reasons. But it's called the Slate, and the company is Slate Auto, Slateauto. And it's kind of a play on words where they're offering this vehicle, which they call a blank slate.
Okay.
So Slate Auto is an American company. They advertise that Jeff Bezos is a backer or initial, investor.
Interesting.
They use that. I don't know if they don't give details, of course, of how much, but they're using that, and it's been out in the information world. I like to call it, at least I know, at least a year and a half, and what they're going after is the market of people interested in EVs, but they want to come out with a vehicle that's low cost and is typically a household second vehicle, or maybe someone who doesn't need to drive many miles per day. Maybe they make infrequent trips and they don't go very far. But the main thing they're going after is the do-it-yourself market, or somebody who's interested in not having the same vehicle for year over year. Maybe because you don't want to change, or you have a loan and you're waiting for the loan to be paid off.
Or maybe if you instead of leasing it or something, you can switch. So
Right.
A lot of people lease cars because they want to try something new. So this may be an alternative.
Yes, and it's a small vehicle from what I've seen online and videos and on their website.
No, it's electric, all electric car. It's not hybrid. It's all electric.
Correct. It's only electric. That's called a BEV, battery electric vehicle. There's only one model. It's a pickup, 2-seater pickup.
I did see that you can make it an SUV.
So that's their other marketing. What they're trying to market, who they're trying to market to. So I'm interested in it because I'm a hands-on person. I repair vehicles, and I've always been around vehicles. So if I wanted to buy the kit, because when you order it, they have at the factory there's some configurations you can get it in, but they're all the ones that roll off the assembly line are all the same.
Yeah.
Then they'll upfit it for you. If you want an SUV, they have the part, like the rear roof. They move the glass behind the front seats. They move it back, and that becomes a flip-up glass for the.
So like a
they
Jeep
retain
Wrangler.
the tailgate, so it's like putting a cap on a pickup truck.
Yeah, making it like a Jeep Wrangler, kind of like my two-door Jeep.
Right, a hard top.
Yeah.
Right? It's not really a cap. It looks like a hard top. And then they have a kit that goes with that you can add rear seating. And they say you'll have 5 people. You can fit 5 people.
5. Now, can I remove that, like that seat and that cap, and make it a pickup truck? Or
Again, yes. Well,
again?
it's going to come as a pickup.
Okay.
Now, if you specify, because all the vehicles come off the line,
Yeah.
generally the same way. They're all pickup trucks.
So if I want to have the seats on one time for to fit people in, and then if maybe I need to go pick something up at Lowe's, I can turn it into a pickup truck real quick or something.
Right.
Like maybe like an hour, half hour, an hour, depending on how long it takes, and use that and put the seats back at a later time.
Exactly right. Now, there may be other people that may just want to change it up and then not really use it for what you just mentioned.
Yeah.
They say, okay, it comes as a pickup. I want to have it be an SUV, so I'll buy that kit or order that kit.
Yeah.
I'll do it myself. Or there's a company called Repair Pal. They are like an online service that connects vehicle owners to reputable, vetted existing repair organizations like independent garages, maybe some body shops. And Slate is working with them to finalize what levels they will certify the Repair Pal network shops for. They can become just upfitters. They can be do warranty work, and they can also diagnose and repair the EV drive system and subsystems. But they can also do the warranty repairs because Slate won't have their own dealerships. Their own repair shops. They're relying on Slate. But back to the configuration. So the vehicle comes off the line. It has a composite body, and it's all one color. The color is part of. It's called impregnated into the material.
Okay.
It's like a gray.
Yeah.
The wheels are standard steel wheels, black wall tires. There's no infotainment system. You can bring your iPad.
I saw
you can
that.
bring your iPhone.
Yeah.
You can upfit speakers. So Slate's planning on having up to 500 accessories that you can have added to the vehicle after it comes off the assembly line by them. But I do know, because I have some industry inside information from my employer, I can't say any more than that, but I do know that there are third parties that will be upfitting the vehicles before they get to the consumer. So you order online, you can put a deposit down of $50 right now, and if you say, well, I want a Slate, but I want it to be delivered to me, or when I pick it up, I want it to be the SUV version.
Yeah.
That's going to go to off-site third parties, original equipment before you get it. Again, all those same parts and accessories that Slate is making and will have available can be purchased by anyone at a later date that already purchases a Slate.
Yeah.
And they want to change it from the SUV to the fastback type SUV, where the rear quarter is kind of tilted back. It's called the fastback design. You want to change the wheels. You can order those wheels. You want to add colored inserts to certain accents. But one of the main things that intrigues me about this is they're going to produce wraps, those vinyl wraps.
I was thinking if you have a blank, like a great color, it would be weird because you paint it yourself or just put wrap on it.
Well, you probably don't want to paint it because of the material. Because it's going to look funky.
Wrapping it.
It's like not a rough surface, but it's not a finished surface.
Oh, okay.
So they wrap it. And you can make it any color you want, any configuration, and it could be, 2-tone, 3-tone, 4-tone. You have racing stripes.
Yeah, I mean,
that's what really intrigues me.
I could probably wrap it with my podcast name or business, or even like sell advertisements. It could be like a billboard or moving billboard for people.
Right, and just like any other manufacturer, Slate's going after the commercial business, whether it's Joe's Plumbing or a bakery. Or like you said, an influencer or a podcaster.
Yeah.
So it's a blank slate. And, if you look on their website and read what they have out there to understand what they're coming to market with, it's pretty intriguing and pretty new. But basically, they want it to be low price. They first said...
Is there a price right now?
Well, not right now. It's going to be announced in June, the latest information.
Oh, okay.
Now, here's what I do know that I can share. It's not inside information by any means, but when they first talked about this vehicle, they were the government's EV incentive discounts were still in effect, and they were saying it's going to cost you about $20,000 after the discounts, right? But then when the government stopped that EV incentive, that people were thinking that the price is going to be $27,000, $28,000, and again, this is a stripped down vehicle. There's no frills. Like when I said there's no infotainment system. That's the one. They come with roll-up crank windows. You can add power windows, whether you do it yourself or have it upfitted before it gets to you.
When I was looking at the website this week about more, I noticed that it had the manual crank-up windows. I really like that because it's less technology in the doors, and I kind of missed that from when I was
Yes.
a child. And the other thing I like is the no infotainment system because like, oh, I
You already
can
have
just
one.
I have on
You have one.
my iPad and I can get a Bluetooth speaker on my
Right.
iPad has Google Maps. I would have to get a different iPad for LTE or just use my phone for hotspot. Uh, I already stream music from Apple Podcast or
Exactly
Apple
right.
Music, so I don't need. Only thing I won't have is the FM radio. Like you can't listen to this show at 6:05 on Friday nights on the Slate unless you put your own radio in there.
Well, your own device.
Yeah,
Like
or
you
your
said.
own device.
It could be your iPhone. It could
I
be
guess you
your
can.
cell phone. It can be, like you said,
That's true. You can go on the internet. Yeah,
yeah.
you just don't have old school.
Now, there's going to be a small little display screen in the center
Yeah,
in front of the driver
for mileage and gas.
for mileage.
And,
No, not
battery
gas.
level.
Remember, it's electric.
Yeah,
It's
that's
not
I
gas.
talked about for battery information.
Battery level, yeah, charge level, distance.
The other thing I like is like can I guess that there's gonna be spots where I can have my brother 3D print mounts for my iPad or speakers or other stuff accessories that I want to put myself?
That's exactly what I was going to get to. So when I said that Slate is going to have, they're estimating about 500 accessories they'll roll out when the truck is available from them. Of course, other they won't be making them; they'll be purchasing them from suppliers and designers. But it'll be sold as a Slate product. But this vehicle is going to open up a whole. I guess the word's open source. Is that correct? So they want independent companies to make accessories, and they want to make this vehicle the blank slate. I'm going to keep using their marketing terms. The blank slate for anyone's imagination.
Yeah,
and it's just going to keep getting better and better, more and more. Like with 3D printing, being a thing.
And 3D
Anyone that says, "Hey, I want to have this. I have a slate, or I see a slate, and I think people will buy this when I make it for whatever it is. It could be anything, any kind of amount.
Yeah,
I can't.
I see a business for my brother because he has a 3D printer that he can make products and stuff for people with this.
Or maybe we'll buy a 3D printer. And
Oh,
we'll
hey,
have a business.
we got a call.
Oh, okay. Okay. We can get back to Slate later.
Yeah. So we push this. Hello, call. You're live on the air.
Welcome.
Hey, what's going on?
Good. We're just talking about Slate Auto right now. How you doing?
Okay. Hey, can I talk some cars with you?
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Yes.
Hey, check it out. Transmission, changing the transmission. Say you bought a car used, would you automatically change the transmission? Say you had like 60,000 miles and you knew nothing about the previous owner. It looked like it was in decent condition. It had 60,000 miles. What would you do with the transmission fluid?
Okay, so I wouldn't change the transmission because if it's working properly and shifting properly and not making any noise.
Just the fluid. Say everything was in good shape. Would you do a transmission fluid change?
Yes, at 60,000 miles, I would. There's two schools of thought on that as far as maintenance of transmission fluid or replacement. If you know that the vehicle had its maintenance schedule followed by the OE instructions, like let's say the first interval for AC, automatic transmission fluid should have been 35,000 or 40,000. If you knew it was done then continue with those intervals. If you don't, the concern you have is, well, if it wasn't done at the regular interval or intervals because it has many miles on it, any sludge or deposits or debris from the clutch packs or the clutch plates that have stuck to the corners of the casting inside the transmission itself, if you change the fluid, you will loosen that up and now it starts circulating with the fluid. That's the concern, and I think that's maybe what you're thinking of. Should I even attempt to change the transmission fluid because I can loosen up debris that's stuck to the sides of the case or attached to somewhere where it's not circulating?
Now, let me interrupt real quick. There's a difference between a drain and refill and a flush, correct?
Exactly right. So when you drain the fluid, whether there's a drain plug, you would use that. If there's no drain plug, you typically take the transmission pan down, and that will hold maybe 50% of the fluid that the transmission's capacity is rated for. So let's say it's 12 quarts of oil. Most of that fluid is inside the torque converter, and you can't get it out of the torque converter. The only way to get it out is to have the engine running, driving the transmission input shaft, which turns the fluid pump, and that circulates the fluid through the converter and through the transmission valve body and the casting bores.
Is that considered the flush?
No, what I'm trying to say is if you start the engine up, the fluid is being transmitted or pumped through the transmission, but through the torque converter. So a drain and fill means you drain the fluid out. If it had a drain plug, you drain it through the drain plug. If it didn't, you take the pan down and let empty the pan, let it
drip out naturally.
Let it drip out by gravity.
Right.
Excellent, right? By gravity, right? Now, to flush a transmission, there's two types. The inexpensive way to flush it, or the quick way, is whoever's going to provide that service will put a chemical flush agent in there, maybe like a lighter viscosity of hydraulic fluid with some detergents and cleansers. So they'll put that in the transmission first, say, okay, let's drive the vehicle or run the engine and let the vehicle's idle or raise the RPM up while it's in park and not in drive. But that doesn't get all the oil circulating through all the circuits and through the different shift solenoids and clutch packs. So a flush means you're adding a cleansing agent as an additive before you drain the fluid.
Now, you're not forcing it through, are you?
Well,
is that a stronger flush where you force that stuff in like a heavy-duty clean, or is that no? You don't do that.
Well, like I said, the first type is you just add a can of cleanser into the fluid, into the transmission fill, right? The dipstick tube, and you run the engine, which drives the front pump, the transmission pump. Now, there are external machines you can hook up to the transmission fluid cooler lines. You put them in parallel, or in series actually, and in that machine you add maybe 4 times the amount you would put in the transmission. Meaning, if I just put one can in the transmission and let it circulate of that cleaner, now that I'm using an external machine and hooking it up in series with the cooler hoses, my machine can hold up to say 3 quarts of that fluid flush. That way, all the machine itself is pumping the fluid into the transmission through the transmission, and the clean is going with it. So that's it's called like a power flush.
Yeah, but you can change the fluid and not turn the car on at all if it's in decent shape. Just drain it all and put new ones in, or do you have to run that transmission?
Well, when you say change the fluid, you only change about 40 to 50% of it. If you just take
you don't change it all?
Well, you can't, because if you just the engine's off, the transmission's not rotating, the internal component's not rotating because the engine's shut off.
Okay.
You're just draining
right.
whatever. It's like you take the pan out. Now, you can drain the fluid by dropping the pan or opening the drain plug and then putting the drain plug back in. Top off the transmission with the amount of that was drained out of it. Let's say you took 4 quarts out. You can put 4 new quarts in, drive the vehicle, and now you're circulating, 4 quarts of clean with, say, 6 to 7 quarts of older fluid that's remaining, and now you've kind of like made 40% of it new. Then you could drain it again. Some people that do it yourself do it. They don't have that machine, or don't want to pay someone with the machine, and you can do it a second time. So eventually, if you do it 2 or 3 times, your percentage of clean new fluid is higher than what it was with just one drain and drain and flush. So.
But you don't have to do a flush every time you change the transmission fluid.
In my opinion,
you have your options with how beat it is.
Correct. When you say beat, that's a great term, because beat means how was it driven? Was it driven hard? Was it serviced regularly? Was it a lot of hard acceleration, or was it just light throttle all the time?
All right, how about this? You buy a new car today, brand new, it has 47 miles when you run out the door with it.
Yes.
When would you change the transmission fluid next?
If I wanted to maintain that vehicle and get the most useful life,
you buy it new.
Right. Okay. So I would follow the manufacturer's maintenance schedule, whatever it said. Typically, 40 to 60,000 miles. The manufacturers are asking you to have they want the fluid replaced. So the flush, the term flush, is something that means an extra step is being done to the replacement of the fluid. Whether you're just adding a can of or you're hooking up an external machine to flush.
But it's not needed necessarily. It's not something you have to do when you change your transmission fluid. Or could you tell by looking at the transmission whether it needed a flush or whether just drain and fill is good enough? Like, what are some of those things that you'd look for? You said, this needs a flush.
Right.
I'll just do it.
I understand. So I'm going to say, in my opinion, if you want to maintain that vehicle and you plan on keeping it for a long time, you should follow the manufacturer specification. Do you need to do that? No, because I've owned many vehicles, many used vehicles.
Transmission fluid lasts a long time, huh? Compared to an oil change?
Well, it does, but what breaks down is the viscosity of it and the lubricity of it. How well can it lubricate?
Yeah.
But then when the
How well
fluid's
does it resist flow, right?
well, right. If it's the lubricity is how effective the additives are that can actually limit or reduce wear and tear. Right now, If you
and
have
viscosity, those two things mixed.
Say again.
Ooh. Those two things mixed, the viscosity and
lubricity.
What was the word you used?
Lubricity. Think of lubricant, but lubricity.
Right, yeah.
Now, when
hey,
go ahead.
Another quick question, right? You've been a tech for a while.
Yes.
Now, the question I want to ask you is, if you're looking at a car that has been totaled, what would you compare? Because you have the unitized body constructions, right? And you have the body on frame.
Yes.
Is it easier to have a unitized body called as totaled if it's in action, or is a body on frame easier to? Does it take more damage? Oh, it's kind of a weird question. You know what I'm saying?
I do know. I do know.
How do total? If you have to total a car, is it easier to total a unitized body construction or a body on frame type vehicle?
Well, if the frame and the body were the only things damaged in the collision event, or the unitized body, which means it's many pieces of metal welded together, different thicknesses and different layers for support where it's needed, the body on frame would be easier, in my opinion. I'm not doing this every day. I'm not in the body repair business or the collision repair business. So
you sound like you're a man who knows what he's talking about.
Well, yeah, I appreciate that. I've been in the business a long time. I know, so I know what I know, but I don't know everything. So, in my opinion, again,
the old Blazers used to be body on frame, but now these Trailblazers you see, those are the unitized body construction.
Exactly right. And I actually rented one in Dallas this week. Well, I didn't rent it. That's what I got when I rented a car. But yeah, you're right. So the reason
I saw two in one day one day, and I was like, man, what would it take to have that called as totaled versus that called as totaled?
It's going to be, the answer is how much labor is required, because that drives up the ticket, right? The total, the bottom line that the estimator and the insurance company has to look at, the labor, the number of extra pieces, like all the plastic pieces that break and crack. Are there any, a body on frame? If you try to pull that out and then have to realign it and make sure it's square, not diamond shaped, that's more labor, more measurements, more equipment's needed. That drives up that line item. If you had to have any ADAS systems that were damaged or hit, there's certain position statements that the manufacturers say, well, if there was a collision event, you have to align the front camera or calibrate the front camera is the proper term. You have to.
Cameras and electronics, all magic stuff you're talking about.
Yeah, and you think about it, like if you saw the estimate of needed repairs, adjustments, and replacements of components, right, and the labor to do all those line items of things that need to be done, that's what drives the bottom line. So the word total means, is the value of the vehicle less than what it's going to cost to fix it and bring it to proper working order, or factory standard working order and condition. That's where the insurance companies save themselves money. They say, well, you know what, that car's worth $21,000 today on the retail market, and they have very accurate records from the auction companies, and they have that price nailed down for what a car can sell tomorrow on the wholesale market and what it's worth on the retail market. So that number there is what they use to say, well, how much is it going to cost to fix this? And of course, in the body shop, your liability is to fix it, one, accurately to manufacturer specifications, and make sure there's nothing you forgot or didn't do, that if there's ever another crash event, somebody can come back and say, well, you're liable because you didn't do this, or you're culpable because you didn't do all you should have done on that last crash event to make it and put in proper good working order. So
and some body shops don't. I had to have a front windshield replaced, and the window place, it was specifically said that they had to use the OEM stuff, and twice they put it on without the OEM, and they called the insurance and said, hey, I'm getting swindled over here, so I went to put it on somewhere else. And now, one last question, if you wouldn't mind.
Sure.
back in the old days, you had the 3-speed manuals and the 4-speed manuals, like the old
Yes.
GTOs, Camaros.
I drive a 6-speed right now myself.
Now, okay, right, cool.
Manual.
Like, say you had an old school GTO that was a 3-speed
Yes.
versus your 6-speed. It just has more gears, or are the teeth wider apart in the 3-speed, or is only because it's a 6-speed, it's going to have more.
So the term speed means there's multiple ratios that can be attained in that transmission, meaning the input shaft, it's going to be turned more times than the output shaft, or less times than the output shaft. So first gear, that output shaft is turning many times. Then you have the multiplication of the torque with the rear differential ratio, like a 410s, 4 to 1, 4.1 to 1, or 3.72s to 1. So you have to have more gears, more. So they can add like 2 more gears and come up with 2 more ratios or 2 more speeds. So the term speed means how many. You can interchange the word ratio with speed in a transmission, whether it's automatic.
So where it goes to the next gear, when the engine hits a certain RPM, then it can't stay in that gear. It has to switch to the next one.
Well, in the manual transmission, the driver has to switch it. So if you don't switch the gears and you're accelerating and you're pushing the accelerator pedal down more and you want to go faster, the engine's going to be revving at 4,000 or 5,000 RPM, but the output shaft's going to be spinning a lot less RPM. So the engine will be revving, and you could damage the engine if it reaches the red line where the pistons and the rings can't keep up and the connecting rods can break. So you upshift it, which puts it into a higher gear, but it's a lower. The ratio changes, and by meshing 2 other gears together to result in the output shaft speed slowing down.
Cool.
Right.
And that's one last question, right?
This last one, my friend, because we got to.
Okay. Say you had a 3-speed and a 6-speed, and you were going to go for a ride around town. Which gear would be easiest if you had a lot of stops and goes? If you choose the 6 or the 3?
The 3. Because
Cool.
Because when you're in 6, your engine's at a lower RPM, and you're going to be lugging the engine, meaning it's going to be like 1,000 RPM, 1,200, and the engine's designed to maintain a certain RPM where it produces the power range or the best torque.
If you're going on a highway, would you choose a 6-speed?
Yes, because you want to have that engine. You want to take advantage of the engine RPMs and resulting in more wheel
All right,
speed.
senor. Thank you, man.
Hey, thanks for calling in. Great talking to you.
Hey, take care. Cool. Thank you.
You're welcome. Bye-bye.
Awesome. Thank you, Colin, for calling in. That was a great call
Yeah,
too.
a lot of
with
questions,
quick
good
questions. And unfortunately, we're coming up to our time for tonight. But I do want to continue next week talking about the Slate to pick up the truck and because I have a lot more questions. But so everyone, thank you for joining us tonight. You've been listening to the Nathan Markley Show on WNRI 1380 AM and 99.9 FM. If you miss any part of the show or want to listen back, catch the replay on YouTube, Apple Podcasts, and Spotify. Thanks for spending part of your evening with us. I'm Nathan Markley. Dad, you have something?
Yeah, I was going to say if we piqued your interest about Slate Auto, feel free when you have a chance, go check it out online and learn a little bit more about it, and call back next week and we can talk about it. But I think it's it's obviously it's a new vehicle, but it's they're marketing it well to all different types of drivers and owners.
And if you have any questions for us, visit my website nathanmarkley.net/askAmechanic. There's a contact form there. That's nathanmarkley.net/askAmechanic, and you can fill out that contact form and submit your questions. Thank you again, Rhode Island, and I'll talk to you all next week.
Bye-bye.
Another Friday in the books, laugh lines running through the show. You've been riding every turn through the highs and the lows. We're closing out the Nathan Markley Show. Thank you for the time you chose. Same place, same dial, See you next week on WNRI. Number in your mind. Friday nights, you're not Show on WNRI. It's the Nathan Markley Show on WNRI.